is the Texas weather discussion video for Wednesday, September the 20th. Summertime-like weather will continue for North Texas, especially with the upper level ridge holding in here, and the tropics are, of course, active as usual. A lot of things to talk about here. Let's get to the water vapor satellite view, get a broad overview, give a broad synoptic scale overview across the CONUS region this morning. We do note that Jose is still almost skirting the coast of almost still skirting Cape Cod and some of those adjacent areas. We have a cold ridge that's bringing snow to the northeast, and down here there's been a little weakness in the ridge, but summer-like conditions still prevail. These are the temperatures at 5:06 a.m. Most locations are starting in the upper 70s, even in the low 80s in some of the metropolitan areas, DFW 81, and we're once again going to warm up to the mid to upper 90s for most of the afternoon and evening hours, but it'll most likely feel a little hotter than that due to the heat index values, potential heat index values. Here's the watch warning map across the CONUS region. We do have a few dense fog advisories in parts of Alabama, Kentucky, and parts of the Midwest, and we do have some tropical storm warnings still in effect for basically tropical storm Jose. Other than that, things are pretty quiet. We have a marginal risk for severe weather for Wisconsin, extending down to Topeka, and same thing on day two. A marginal risk for parts of Wisconsin, Minnesota, and parts of the Dakotas. Notice how Texas is in green, which means risk for thunderstorms to organized severe weather is expected. Average rainfall for the next 7 days, valid through Wednesday morning of next week. This is suggesting that most. This is great. This is suggesting most locations in Texas may see about about half an inch of rain for parts of North Texas, and that's with the cold front that may come through later next week. You can see higher amounts are in West Texas, and I think those amounts may increase with time for our area. But let's get right on with the tropics here. We do note that the wave that once was tropical storm or tropical depression Lee is basically in the process of reorganizing and recycling, and that may actually become Tropical Storm Lee again within the next few days. This is just something to look out for. Jose is still hanging on to the northeast coast here near Cape Cod as a tropical storm, and this has maximum sustained winds at 65, and of course. Tropical storm warnings are still in effect for parts of the Cape Cod area, and this storm, and it still remains unknown whether or not this will just dissipate right in open water, or will this just do the loop the Fujiwara effect as a result of what we're about to talk about next. But you can, but it's not really shown. But by Saturday, by the weekend, by really the middle of the weekend, this should become post-tropical cyclone and ultimately lose its tropical characteristics here. So if this does go into the United States, this won't have many significant impacts here. That's why there's only tropical storm warnings only in effect only for Cape Cod. And the model guidance shows that some models try to bring this into the United States, but the GFS ensemble, the thing you want to look for is the black line. That's where the mean is, and the mean does want to take this into some of the United States areas, and into some of the northeast. So the bottom line is if this does go into the United States, it should be a relatively weak tropical low. No real impacts from this thing. But how's Maria doing? Maria, Maria, as I'm making this video, the major hurricane Maria is making landfall in Puerto Rico right now as a strong Category 4. This is actually the strongest. This is actually the strongest hurricane to make landfall in Puerto Rico on record right now. Wow. And here's a closer look at the GOES 16 view, a closer look at the eye on this thing, and the technology on this is just incredible. You can just see the spiral bands of the that's in the eye, just circulars. It's just going on this thing. Maximums and sustained winds are now at 155 miles an hour. Actually, 155 miles an hour. Actually, last night it was at 175, which was pretty strong, but now it's 155. It's still a pretty significant Category 4 here, but as this gains latitude and moves to the north, this should skirt the southern Bahamas here, and the model guidance basically says the same thing. This will basically gain latitude and will stay well to the east of the East Coast, and this should not affect the Gulf of Mexico or Florida at all. The GFS ensemble basically says the same thing. This will not affect the United States at all. The mean says the same thing what I just said, and except for a few outliers, most of the models agree with this solution. So let's look at the deterministic runs. Here's the GFS. This is the O6Z run valid today at 1 o'clock, 500 millibars. Cold trough in the northwest. We're still in a flat ridge, and as a result, we should continue to stay dry. Again, breezy during the afternoon and evening hours with highs in the upper 90s. Although it will feel a lot hotter than that. Thursday. By the time Thursday arrives, we should still feel the same way. Again, partly cloudy, very warm, highs in the mid 90s, and same thing on Friday on football day. Let's go to Saturday. Let's go to the weekend here. This is Saturday. And you can see Maria is starting to come into the picture, and Jose is basically just a weakening low here. And by Sunday, if Jose decides to come into the United States near New Jersey and Pennsylvania, it'll basically just be an open wave that shouldn't have any impacts. And of course, that's caused by the Fujiwara effect due to Maria. Now let's go to Monday of next week. Of course, we should trend a little cooler. We should trend a little cooler by now. Highs in the low 90s to the upper 80s as a cold front nears our area, and by Tuesday. And by Tuesday, we could see a chance of scattered showers and storms throughout the region as a cold front nears our area. And here's a week from today, Wednesday, the 27th of September. We have a little breakness of the ridge here, but we have broad troughing in the north and west, and down here, we do have a chance. It looks like we do have a chance of scattered showers and storms, maybe even numerous showers and storms at that. With the cold front coming through. Here's the end of the forecast period on Friday, the 29th day of September. Again, most of the country is in a ridge, and as a result, most of the country should be rain-free on this day. Down here, we'll have some times of sun and clouds, but highs will stay in the low 80s. Again, with that cooling trend here, it's basically fall time. By Saturday, when you mention astrological fall, it's basically like magic. It's basically like clockwork. Highs will basically cool down as we get to fall and towards the end of September. And once we introduce October, highs will be basically in the mid to low 80s, just like clockwork. That's it for the Texas weather discussion video for today. I'll have more notes in the blog. The next video here by 7 a.m. tomorrow morning. If you can, catch your local TV stations on the air at 4, 5, 6, and 10 o'clock. Thanks for watching, make it a great day, and Godspeed.